Over the last several weeks, the nonstop news coverage around coronavirus has caused many Americans to feel nervous and overwhelmed. While it's important to stay informed, it's also good to sometimes take a step back from all of the headlines.
I encourage people to check the news once, maybe twice a day, and that's consistent with the World Health Organization's mental health guidelines during this pandemic time.
That's Dr. Laura Schopp, professor and chair of the Department of Health Psychology at the University of Missouri. She says the constant stream of news and opinions coming from all angles, whether it be social media or traditional outlets, can be emotionally draining.
I limit mine to about 15 minutes in the morning and about 15 minutes in the evening because it's overwhelming out there. The other piece is that I strongly encourage people to be careful about their sources of information. It's very easy to get unvetted or unverified information and to have a strong reaction to that. So I encourage people to go to credible websites. That includes the CDC, the World Health Organization, those kinds of organizations, as well as state and local governments. They have credible information, and that can help to limit the reactivity around rumors and things like that.
Getting accurate, up-to-date local and national news is vital during a crisis, but it's also important to find a balance between news consumption and personal detox time. As millions of Americans' routines have been broken in recent weeks, even the best of us are struggling to adjust. The important factor to realize is that this new normal is really just temporary.
We need to give ourselves a little bit of a break if a person is experiencing some fear and anxiety of this uncertain time. At the same time, there's so many things that we can do about that will help support mood and mental health. So the first thing that people can do is get off of social media or at least limit their exposure to social media. That is absolutely critical, and all of the literature in psychology and in communications supports the fact that people who go on social media for longer durations during times of trouble have much more anxiety and depression.
Setting aside your phones in favor of taking walks, doing yoga, or whatever helps you unwind can have a bigger impact than you might think. Starting small by forming simple daily habits can help add structure and find connection during this period of unknowns.
If you find yourself overwhelmed and stressed because you're projecting out 2 months from now or worried about something that has not yet happened, then that's a good time to pull right back to the present moment, looking at what's happening right now, feeling the body, doing the thing that you can do at this moment. At the same time, it's also helpful sometimes to broaden the picture, so that if you're feeling overwhelmed, it can be really helpful to remember that we can take actions today that we're going to be proud of in the future when this pandemic passes.
So, what does the future hold? The economic road ahead can be worrying as millions of jobs and nearly every industry has been affected in some way by this global pandemic. However, Schopp says take a step back from the daily financial ups and downs and think about the bigger picture.
People who are concerned about their investments or their financial stability, it's understandable that we would want to check on that, but the reality is it is very hard to get a lot of information with little control. So following every zigzag in the market, following every upsurge or every swing or every downturn can be extremely emotionally taxing simply because there's very little that we can do about it on a moment-to-moment basis. So I recommend that people do not check their portfolios every day. I also recommend that people be generous to each other. That is, if you have a service worker in your life, maybe a personal trainer, maybe a housekeeper, a person at a salon, people who provide services that are going to be particularly impacted by this, if you can spare it, and if you found that you haven't been out in the stores spending money this month, then it might be a good idea to share a little bit of your resources with them if you can.
Jessica Byrne is one of many Americans right now trying to keep a positive viewpoint on the economic uncertainty. Byrne is a software engineer and also runs an online personal finance blog called Financial Mechanic. where she details her savvy money habits and her path to early retirement. So far, she's 26 years old and has amassed more than $300,000. While a lot of her savings are in the stock market, Burns says that she's staying level-headed by focusing on the long-term timeline.
The coronavirus itself and the stock market crash, we didn't know about the coronavirus coming, but we knew a stock market crash was coming. The market is cyclical, and right now I'm actually investing more into the market. And if it does continue to be a bear market, I'm going to continue investing because that is my plan to start. And I was kind of expecting there to be some sort of market drop in the future because it always is going to happen. And because of that and this knowledge about investing in general, I'm just not looking at my investments right now, and I'm just putting money in the same way that I would if it was continuing to rocket up in a bull market.
People across the nation have been impacted differently by this economic 180. Millions have already seen cut hours, sweeping layoffs, steep market losses, and local businesses closing their doors for good. But during this time, it's critical to remain optimistic in the face of adversity, knowing that the tide will eventually turn.
Historically, there's worries about something, whether it's a virus or economic disasters, banks collapsing, housing markets collapsing. There's always some type of uncertainty. And so really the thing to remember is that it's a long game. You want to just stay invested, keep calm. In the long run, things are going to work out.
Dr. Laura Schopp says that ultimately there is a silver lining here within the hardship.
We will come out stronger, smarter, and with some new ways of doing things. The innovations that we're doing now in terms of how we work and how we communicate with people and the ways we stay in touch are all transferable to post-epidemic life. And also, people can come out of this with a sense of we pulled together on this, and that's no small thing.
To find out more about our guests, Dr. Laura Schopp and Jessica Byrne, visit viewpointsradio.org. You can also check out Byrne's personal finance blog at financialmechanic.com. For more behind the scenes, check out Viewpoints Radio on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. This segment was written and produced by Amira Zaveri. I'm Gary Price.
Coming up, we speak with Drew Barrymore about growing up in Hollywood and what she's learned along the way when Viewpoints returns.
Most primary care doctors expect to see more people with dementia over the next 5 years. But a new survey shows half of them don't think the medical profession is ready. Primary care physicians are on the front lines of dementia care, but nearly a third are never or only sometimes comfortable answering patient questions about it. Nearly 2 in 5 say they're never or only sometimes comfortable making a diagnosis. That's deeply concerning to Dr. Joanne Pike, Chief Program Officer of the Alzheimer's Association.
We're heading toward a medical emergency when it comes to ensuring dementia care will be available for all who need it. It's critical that stakeholders work together to reverse the shortage of dementia care specialists and enhance dementia care education for primary care providers.
The survey is part of the Alzheimer's Association 2020 Alzheimer's Disease Facts and Figures Report, which finds that, barring medical breakthroughs, the number of people with Alzheimer's dementia may nearly triple in the next 30 years. Find out more at alz.org. With the threat of coronavirus, social distancing has become the new normal. But staying safe presents unique challenges for more than 5 million Americans living with Alzheimer's and more than 16 million family members and friends serving as caregivers.
Public health strategies aimed at limiting contact with others are nearly impossible for people living with Alzheimer's who rely on family caregivers and others every day.
Beth Kallmeyer is Vice President, Care and Support at the Alzheimer's Association.
For example, people living with Alzheimer's may forget to wash their hands or follow other safety precautions. Family caregivers need to be extra vigilant in helping individuals practice good hygiene.
Alzheimer's families also need to anticipate that current care, support, and communication options may change and make backup plans. And try your best to stay calm. People living with dementia take their cues from those around them. The Alzheimer's Association has more tips at alz.org, or caregivers can call its 24/7 helpline 800-272-3900.
And that's Viewpoints for this week. Viewpoints is a production of MediaTrax Communications. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more about upcoming shows. And find a library of past programs on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and more information about our guests at viewpointsradio.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Viewpoints.
Coming up on Viewpoints.
The amount of meals that need to get produced have increased dramatically, and we're seeing that they continue to increase.
The challenges of providing free school meals to millions during this global pandemic. Then,
the best human solvers are still better than the best artificial intelligence solvers, too.
Adventures with crosswords and the puzzling people who can't live without them. I'm Marty Peterson.
and I'm Gary Price. These stories in depth on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.